Well, everybody, I'm super excited this week. I think we've all been following Alicia and Bows and Arrows for quite a long time. Alicia, welcome to the Flower Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Well, everything you do and everything we've seen is just so amazing and inspiring, and the locations and the weddings. And I could go on and on. And my first question is because I mean, right when I first found you several years ago, you'd obviously been doing this a little while. So how did it all begin? How did this all start?
Yeah, good question. So I went to school for painting and I didn't really know exactly what my career would be. I love art and painting in all mediums, really. So I just followed my passion and went to school for painting. And then after college, I worked at a gallery for a couple of years. And then I moved to New York City just to be in, the art
Right.
world and have great experiences. And that is where I learned all about flowers. I worked at a little flower shop in Brooklyn Heights and learned everything really about flowers, the conditioning of flowers, season of flowers at that shop. And then my passion grew from there. And I discovered that was a great medium for me to paint with, using these flowers as kind of colors, textures. So that's kind of where it started.
That's amazing. And so from that point, when did you start your own business?
So I met my husband Adam at a bar randomly in New York, and we got married and got pregnant and moved from New York to Texas and started a business all in the same year.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, that's so much.
yeah.
Wow.
So he also went to school for painting, and at the time he was a photo shoot producer. So he was always like on location doing different jobs in different cities. And then I was there doing my flowers, and we wanted to be able to work together and share in creation and something creative. And we have a similar aesthetic that we just wanted to make something our own and be able to spend every second of the day together.
Love
So
it.
we
Especially
do
if you
that.
have kids. Yeah.
Yeah. So we do that now because it is Bows and Arrows is both Adam and I. So we work together and we do a bunch of destinations together, bunch of projects together. We have two kids together. So we really are together every second of the day now.
Wow. Is that and it what really excites me about that is that works for you. Not every I can't tell you how many times I've heard over the years like, "Oh, I could never work with my spouse. I could never, be under the same roof all day long with them." But I'm so glad that that works for you guys. That's so awesome.
Yeah. It's not always easy, but I mean, we love we love what we do, and it's exciting to us. And we both challenge each other in different ways and make each other better.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great. So, when Bows and Arrows started, did it just start as a wedding and event company? Did you start doing everyday flowers? Did you start how did
Yeah,
that
so
progress?
we opened in a little storefront and we were
Really?
part flowers and part like art and handmade items because I didn't really know, I didn't want to like go full into flowers. I really didn't know what our business would become. Both of us having an art and painting background,
Hmm.
we still wanted to have that. So we had monthly exhibitions that we would curate, or we would have different curators come and we would have openings every month. And then we had like cool handmade gift items and we had flowers. And, I was pregnant at the time and had a newborn baby. So, what you
Wow.
see of us today is not how we started. We did start small and grew from there. But we kind of wanted to like just test the waters and see what our business could be. So we started with art, handmade items, and flowers, and kind of see. We saw what took off and what we were able to support our family on. So flowers were the thing that everyone came to us for. And
What a great way to just test the waters. So many times, people feel like you've got to have all the answers before you start something. That's what makes me kind of glad to hear that you shared that. So
Yes,
thank
yes.
you.
I'm a number 7 on the Enneagram. So I'm a little adventurous. I'm an enthusiast. I seek great experiences, and maybe I don't always complete those experiences, but I'm always going to try different things. And yeah,
Wow. So how long did it take for you to realize flowers were the answer?
pretty quickly. Yeah, we started booking small weddings like right away.
Wow.
Um, Parties, events, people would come in just to get flowers to take to the someone they love. So I mean, it was very quickly that we see that's where people wanted to spend their money, not necessarily on art, or the handmade pieces were good too, but flowers, I think everyone really liked our style too. I think we were doing something different than Dallas was doing at the time. So I think we had a very unique um, perspective on flower arranging that hadn't been seen really yet in the Dallas area.
Sure. Uh, how long was it before you became so into destination weddings?
I have to think back on well, okay, so we really started because we're in Texas. Texas is a huge state, and a
True.
lot of people have ranch weddings. So I think we were doing destination weddings before we even realized we were doing destination weddings, because we were going to all of these different ranches, and maybe these ranches are 4 hours away. Or Marfa, we did a lot of things in Marfa, which is like a 9 hour drive from our studio. So we were doing a lot of traveling before destination weddings were really a thing, because people were hosting weddings and events at their ranches, or Marfa has kind of been a destination town in Texas. So I think we had all this traveling under our belt before we even tried to.
What a great experience, though. It's
Yeah.
kind of like it's stress free learning almost because you're like, you're having to figure this out and you don't even realize it. And you kind of have that safety net being that at least you're in the same state. You can rely on certain vendors and people that you're used to working with.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, you work with some amazing, um, and I don't know the right term to use anymore because I hear different terminology, whether it's an event planner or designer or things like that.
Well, all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so do you feel like those relationships are what really catapulted you into where you are now? Or do you think that it's just been an organic sort of growth?
Well, it's both. It is like teaming up with planners and designers who are growing at the same time you are also. So that has happened in a lot of situations
Hmm.
where, we're kind of at the same stage. We're getting bigger and growing and doing bigger events and more design and more installation. So we kind of grow at the same rate, which is awesome. And then, yes, I work with designers and planners who have maybe been doing it, way longer than I have, that then put me on a large project. So it just really varies.
Wow. So, that's one thing, and that's a great point. And we've had a couple of people, it's been a while, make that point that when you're starting out, it's really good to try to team up with people that are at the same level you're at so you can kind of all grow together. And I appreciate you saying that. Do you feel like, I don't know, I feel like a lot of times wedding an event companies really undervalue that importance of the relationship with a wedding planner. I'm just kind of curious if you have any tips or tricks that might be helpful in developing those
Right, right.
relationships.
You know, you really want someone that you work well together with. You don't want to force a relationship if it's not a good match, because you're a team, really. And many times I never even talk to my clients, the brides. Maybe not ever, maybe not before the wedding. I really like work with the designer or planner who hires us, and that is the relationship that is important, because I want the planner to be able to trust me, and I want to deliver for the planner or designer. So we have to be on the same page with aesthetics and communication, so I think it's an important relationship. Like, you do want to have someone that you work well together with, that you can trust, that you can be candid with and have clear communication with too, because you want to get it right for them. And sometimes I think clients or brides can't communicate clearly what they want. I mean, this is their first wedding many times. And so they don't really know how to communicate, or they don't want to hurt your feelings. But having a great relationship with a planner or a designer who can clearly say, this is what we want, this is the budget, it makes that relationship so great, so easy. And all that other stuff is kind of out of the way. So you can really, get down to business and perform your best.
Yeah, I can't imagine um, how streamlined that must make things by doing it that way. But at the same time, do you ever feel like you miss something by not having that, or is just a good wedding planner is able to communicate it?
Well, one wedding planner that a designer, she's actually not a planner anymore. A designer I work with a ton, Joy Proctor is her
Yeah.
name. And she was planning and designing, and now she really just designing is her thing. I feel like I don't miss out on that client face to face as much, because she really tells a story through her design,
Mm.
and she fills me in all about who the clients are, who the bride is. Like, she focuses on their love story and their connection. And everything she creates and designs, it is very much intentional and kind of tells their love story. So I'm getting the best of it, by getting to know who these people are through this storytelling, or through what's communicated to me. And, most of the times I do get to meet them when I deliver her bouquet or something like that, but I'm not going back and forth with her, with the bride, before the wedding too much. You
Gosh,
know,
that
it's streamlined, and I get to know who she is through the designer and the designs.
that must save so much time.
Yes, totally.
And I know for those of you that might not know Joy, we had actually two episodes with Joy last year, so we'll put links to that on all of our stuff. So that way, if you haven't ever heard her, she's an amazing person. She is so gifted, and I think even some of the photos we shared when she was our guest, I think were your photos, which of course I was not surprised because they're just so incredible. I know one of the things that was interesting was, I think a couple of them were celebrity weddings. And so, not that I know there's things you can't ever talk about, but what is that like dealing with a celebrity event or wedding? Is it like a different level, or is it just more, or is it more complicated? I'm just kind of curious how that might be
Well,
different.
it really depends. Some celebrities I've worked with are super laid back and low key and chill. Like, I did Casey Musgrave's wedding, and she was just like so cool, so calm. Like, she didn't have like, a list of things she wanted. Like, it was very organic with her. And there also wasn't like a ton of like security and management teams and some of those types of things. But it really, and then I've done a few others too that I've like signed NDAs on that I can't talk about.
Right.
But everyone's different. There, I haven't always seen like a big security or management team at every wedding I do. When there's a lot more hoops to jump through, because you have to maybe turn in your cell phone when you go to work every day. And so there's no communication with your
Mm.
team. So that happened at an instance where my whole team had to turn in their phones every single day when we went to work at the venue. And so, because this was like a multi-day installation. And so there was no communication across the place, and it was huge. And so it was hard to get things done and communicate and have deadlines with that. Um, but yeah, sometimes it's not like that at all. And there's, no security, no crazy management things, but I mean, it's amazing. It's just like any other wedding sometimes,
Sure, sure.
sometimes not. But
No, I understand. I think, one of the things with destination weddings that you guys do so much of is just learning the logistics. And I know that having worked on a few big events myself, a couple of them which were destination weddings, I only had to deal with like the flower sourcing or helping source product. Wrapping my little brain around that one thing was a lot when you're pulling stuff from all over the place, and having to juggle all of that is got to be a lot. I mean, I'm sure it must come in really handy that you and Adam can work together on all of that, because you get to kind of play to your strengths and things. I'm just wondering, is there any, I don't know if there's like maybe what tips or because there's so many moving parts. I mean, just lodging, for example, or,
yeah,
you know,
I'm part travel agent in
yeah.
every job I do because I'm booking flights, I'm booking rental cars, refrigerated trucks, whether it's an Airbnb for the team or hotels, like there's a lot. And all of my design team is like all over. I have like designers in Mexico, Canada, like all the different states. So every time, like I have to book everyone's separate flights and all the logistics to get to wherever we're going.
So is there like a standard, like, do you have like a procedure book on making sure you don't miss anything? I mean, it just seems like there's so many moving parts. I mean, like you just talked about travel alone.
I know.
Somebody shows up and there's not a car. That's kind of an issue, or
Yeah.
misses a connecting flight. Then what do you do? And I don't know. It just seems like such an overwhelming task. But you pull them off and everything looks so flawless. You just think, did everything go perfect? Or
Right, right. I mean, there's usually little hitches here and there, but and it's usually because of the weather, like
really?
it's too hot and maybe, things are that's the one thing that is the worst to deal with is when it's too hot and we need to set that ceremony installation out, but it's like we can't wait too long because we need a certain amount of time to do it. So I think heat, sometimes wind,
Mm.
crazy things like that. We did have a situation recently where we were in Palm Springs and a structure was put up over the entire ceremony um, seating, like everyone, like a giant arbor was put up for all the guests, and crazy winds came through and knocked the entire structure over. And two of my designers were under it, and one got slightly hit in the head by a ladder that she was carrying over her head to move to a different. I mean, thankfully she had the ladder over her head, I think, because the beam was coming down. And I think that was a very scary time for my entire team. It made us really take notice to what we're doing and how dangerous it can be. Like, I think sometimes we just get up on ladders and we don't understand that, that ladder could have blown over. The ladder could fall, scaffolding could move, so, things can happen,
Wow.
and we're risking a lot with what we do with installations. So I think that really was a wake up call to all of us. It was shocking and a scary moment, and we were thankful that there was no serious injuries. Yeah.
So how did you guys recover from that? Or can you talk about it?
You know, it
Because that's a big, you got everything in place, right? And then that
Oh,
happens.
okay. So how we recovered from the event, they had to, okay, so it was like right before the ceremony happened too, like right before guests showed up. So it was crazy. And the whole structure fell. This giant, gorgeous, draped like gazebo that we did not put up. Someone else had put up, and they had like guaranteed us it would withstand like certain mile per hour winds. So we had all these gorgeous floral chandeliers hanging from the top of it. We had an aisle installation, big, gorgeous like urn arrangements at the front. So anyways, that whole structure blew down. So they had to remove the whole structure and just get it out of the way. They couldn't risk trying to put it up again. So we had to just reset everything. Oh, we had garlands also lining like that whole structure hung from the ceiling and like draping down. So those just didn't get to be part of the ceremony. And the flower chandeliers didn't get to be part of the ceremony also. We just pulled the things up that were on the aisle and made that work again from getting blown over. But over on the other lawn, the whole reception was getting blown, like centerpieces, candles, everything was blowing over and breaking. So we had to move the entire reception indoors so that the wind would not be, I mean, yeah, the wine goblets, like everything was just blowing off the tables.
Oh my
So we
gosh.
had to do, it's basically like we set up two weddings and two
Right.
receptions that day because, yeah. And so after that catastrophe, our team had to like take a gulp and move it completely. It was a crazy day.
Well, as devastating as that is, it's probably really good that there was nobody, like it wasn't in the middle of the ceremony when it happened.
Right.
And that would have really been devastating to have all those people under there when that
Yeah.
happened. But how amazing, and you just have to roll with it. I mean, you don't really, you're just making it up as you go along at that point, and hopefully everyone's understanding and they get it. And
Yeah.
I mean, what can you do? There's nothing you can do. So, wow, what an incredible story. Um, that makes me think when you're talking about all those flowers, right now there's been a lot of issues with shortages and things like that. Sort of the season we're in, I think it's going to be that way for a little while. When you travel, obviously you've got, you're having to deal with people you don't know, vendors you don't know. How do you go about really putting together that entire package of florals or whatever it might be when
Yeah.
you're doing those kinds of things?
Well, when I'm in the US, I pretty much consistently use Mayesh for, maybe half or the bulk, depending on where I'm traveling to. I use Mayesh for a lot. And then I also source local farmers wherever I'm going, if it's possible,
Mm-hmm.
to get florals also. It all depends on where I'm traveling, what time of season,
Sure.
all of that. But I do like to kind of divide it up among different. I love Rose Story Farm also in California. And so, all of those flowers can just be sent to whatever location I'm at, whether they're flying them and then I pick them up at like cargo pickup, or if they like FedEx them. I prefer picking them up at cargo pickup. I feel like I have more control. They leave them in the fridge usually until I'm there to pick up.
Sure.
Otherwise, FedEx, they're out on delivery. You just never know.
No, that's a great point. But when you're going to parts of the world where you don't have,
Yeah.
reliable vendors,
Yeah.
do you find yourself splitting up the orders more, or it's hard to put your eggs in one basket? I guess that's what I'm
Right,
kind of thinking.
right. If I've been there before, like with Mexico, there's an amazing flower market, and I can go there. It's in Mexico City. I can order everything I want, or I can send a friend who lives there my big order, and then it can all get boxed up and be sent to Cabo or Tulum or wherever, San Miguel, wherever my weddings are there. But I know Mexico City is the place to get everything that I want, and then I can have them flown. So I've developed a relationship there. But if it's a place I've never been before, like we did a wedding one time in Budapest, and I
Wow.
didn't get to do a site visit for it, so I really had no idea what I was getting into and what the flower market would be like. Like I knew, there's an amazing flower market in Paris, and of course there's Holland, so I didn't know exactly where I was going to get things from. But I found an amazing little flower market in Budapest, and this was a smaller wedding, so it wasn't like so much that I would need. And we just had to apply to get like a little vendor tag, and then we could go in there and shop. And lots of stuff was local. There was Dutch product, so it was an amazing little market. But sometimes you are taking chances and it works out. But it's always good to have kind of like several vendors in case, one thing gets stuck in customs, or, flowers are sometimes destroyed, or they don't make the shipment, like whatever the case may be. It's always good to have a backup and a backup of the backup. Yeah.
Yeah, and lots of local friends. It's
Yes.
probably
Yes. Yes. Make friends wherever you go. Make friends wherever you travel, wherever you go, so that you can help each other.
yeah, that's awesome. Well, I know you make it sound so easy in a way, and I know it, at this point in the game, it probably is a way easier for you than it used to be. But I think that the caliber of things you produce, it's just so stunning. What do you find? And I don't always ask this question, but with you, I really kind of do. What do you find really inspires you?
Yeah, landscapes, like the horizon. My husband and I are very into nature, and I think we travel for like three main reasons probably, and that's landscapes, art, and culture. So culture is something that's very inspiring too. Like when we go to like handmade markets and like all the textures, the textiles, baskets, different things you can find there. Like that is very inspiring. Like I'll find things I just want to put flowers in, even though that's not what they're meant for. Like when we were in Thailand, the markets are incredible. And we found so many amazing, like little metal offering dishes that,
Mm,
yes, sometimes flowers are designed in them or things are put in as offerings, but like seeing all those, that was very inspiring to me. So I wanted to use those for this wedding in Thailand and do all the centerpieces in those vessels. Um,
So
so
did
yeah,
you, did you go to Thailand with one plan and then you see this and these incredible products and you totally switched gears, or did you just go like hoping you'd find something that would work?
yeah, I didn't really have a plan of what vase I would use. A lot of times we truck over, like if we're working in the US, we can pack a van
Right.
full of vases and all of our tools we need. So, flying to Thailand and not having done a site visit before, also, this was our first wedding there. I knew there was an amazing market in Bangkok and I had researched and I was like ready, but I also had some flowers on order from a vendor in Bangkok. So, I wasn't like just going there like completely not knowing what I was going to get. But then I also knew the markets were great. I had no idea what I would find there, whether it would be like wooden vessels or terracotta or like clay vessels. I didn't really know exactly what I would really like gravitate towards, but it was like these little metal offering bowls. And we ended up painting them white, but they had like a gorgeous design on them that you could see through the white. So,
Mm,
and I knew because I knew this bride did want more gardeny. She didn't want it to like scream Thailand, like I might have wanted it to, So, that's what I was trying to balance. Like I did want to incorporate the culture and incorporate Thai vessels, but I didn't. This bride wanted like a more American garden style wedding, so I had to balance that. I couldn't use like
interesting.
lotus blossoms and orchids everywhere. I had to mix them in with garden roses and do that.
So, um, going back to shortages and things that are happening right now, have you been impacted very much in your ordering with that?
Totally, totally. Flowers are crazy expensive, like five times the price. Not all of them, but a lot of them are like five times the price. So I'm having to find substitutes. And that's even if they're available. A lot of
Right.
things are not even available to have right now. So thankfully, I do have a lot of brides who are pretty laid back and willing to make substitutions. But I don't want to spend like $5 or $6 on a standard rose wholesale price, which is crazy. So, a lot of things I'm just skipping that and finding some subs. I always try to, get local. I've been having a lot of Colorado weddings lately, and I found an amazing, the Colorado Flower Collective based in Denver.
Hmm.
She's awesome because she pulls together so many different farmers. She's like a wholesale market for all the flower farmers. And so I've been loving working with her. I worked with her in August, and now I have an upcoming wedding in Aspen that I'm placing an order. So, it makes it, I think that's the thing with flower farmers. Yes, I love to go directly to them and place orders, but also, it's sometimes hard to find farmers and find enough quantity for my weddings that way. So I do wish that there could be kind of like a collective in different areas where all the farmers got together and could work that way.
Yeah, because that gives you like that one-stop shop where you've got someone else coordinating. Maybe they don't all have enough white dahlias, but with all of them, then they do. So yeah, that's a great idea, and a good tip to kind of look out for that kind
Yeah.
of business.
Mm-hmm.
Um, do you have in your contracts where I know we did an interview recently that we were talking about this, but I feel like everyone handles things a little differently. Do you have like freedom in your contract if in this situation, or do you have to like call your bride and say, hey, things have changed?
No, I have freedom to make substitutions. And I put that in the contract that, and this was way even before COVID, if something didn't look good, like if you're wanting peonies and it's not peony season and they come in and they don't look good, I'm going to substitute it for you. Or if I'm trying to get lily of the valley and I just can't get it, I'm going to make a substitute. So yes, they sign off on that I can substitute when necessary.
Even with the pricing issues, because I mean, is that another thing? Like because I know a lot of people, they did a budget in 2019 and now they're reschedule. We're here 2021, 22, and the prices,
Right.
and you just think, gosh, how do you deal with the bride or the design wedding designer planner? Is
Yeah.
that
Well,
how,
again, I don't really go, I don't have a client who necessarily wants a very, very specific thing. I think overall it's more of an aesthetic, and
okay?
more of an overall color story. So if we can't get, a certain thing, so I don't think they would even notice. I don't think
Mm.
that, one flat, like if it got to be where there were lots of things that we couldn't get or lots of things we had to sub where the whole color story and aesthetic just wouldn't work, that would be a different story. But when there's like a couple things that I might have to replace or scale down on and sub, something different, um, my brides aren't too particular. And my, the designers and planners I work with too kind of know how that works.
Well, I imagine they're a really great ally in this process.
Yes.
Because they're the ones who kind of go to bat for you. And if there are major issues, you're dealing with a professional, not just with, like you said, a first time bride, maybe.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, I love to ask this question of people, especially like you. And I'm curious if you had to start everything all over again, what is it that you are wish you knew now or wish you knew then that you know now?
Wow. That's a good one. I right now I feel like I have a lot of junk, like vases and I kind of feel like in the beginning I was collecting a lot of stuff. I would spend a lot of money on really, awesome things I'd find and I kind of just wish I hadn't gone so overboard and and bought so much. Like I wish I had to scale back a little maybe and been a little more conservative in the things I collected. Because it's like we have a studio space now that we are just like growing out, like it's just overflowing with stuff. And I'm getting ready to make the decision to sell that studio space and scale down. And so I want to sell a lot of my vessels and vases because it's just like it's too much stuff.
And I appreciate you saying that. I often wonder because I hear it a lot where people feel the need to like build their inventory, and a lot of times I'm like, so is this for a future wedding like you have on the books, you have a deposit, or is this just you think you need this stuff? And a lot of times it's because they think they need this stuff. They
That was
like,
me.
well, to make you feel legitimate. And it's so good to hear you say that maybe that's not something you would have done.
Yes. Yes.
So,
So I think that's one thing.
yeah.
You don't need a million different things. And if your client really wants a certain vase, then just put that in the budget and buy it. And then if you don't see yourself using it in the future, sell it after that. But then also, I think the other, the thing I wish I had have known would be to charge appropriately. Like, I feel like I was just really trying to figure things out in the beginning, you know, especially with installations. I mean, that's, I think, the biggest question for everyone is how to charge for that.
Yeah.
But even like with, you know, centerpieces, I think I wish I had have just started charging more than I did. But I
Yeah,
guess
I
we have to
think,
start somewhere.
well, we do. And I feel like that's always a challenge because sometimes our own emotions or our own personal budgets interfere with that sometimes. How can I ask, how do you charge for like doing the, I mean, I know it's different because every arch is different and every chandelier is different,
Yes,
but how do you,
figure out.
yeah.
So now I do like by the square foot.
Oh, okay.
Or yeah, that is just like the best way to calculate it. So if I know how big a dance floor is and we're doing an entire ceiling installation over that, and I know that I need, you know, 1 square foot, I need this amount of material in, you know, then I calculate that way because, and that's how I order, that's how I'll charge the client.
By the square foot. I love that. Now, now, obviously you have so much experience doing this now. So you probably, somebody says, my dance floor is this big. You probably don't have to think a whole lot depending on the product. But did you like practice, you know, making a few things and seeing how much volume filled up? Or is it just over time you started to learn, okay, I know I'm going to need this much stuff, and you started charging right?
Over time, I'm like, ooh, I did not charge enough for this installation. Next time I'm going to charge, you know, like that's how I learned. But yes, now I kind of have a number in my head that I can say, this is how much we're going to charge. And then I can work backwards. So, you know,
Hmm.
if I charge X amount of money for a ceiling installation, I can know that my budget then will be Y. And I need to stick to this budget when I'm ordering flowers. So that really helps me because I don't have to like work out how much the flowers are going to be at that time of year yet because my bride hasn't even paid me a deposit. I don't want to spend too much time in the front end pricing things out. I'm the type who I like to just give a price and then I work backwards and I will figure out and I will make the florals work within that budget that I've priced. And that's for everything: centerpiece, bouquets, all of that. I give an estimate. And then once they book me, that's when I'll write my recipes and make sure all my recipes are within budget when I order
Sure.
the flowers.
And, you know, it's interesting because I know that's, and for some people that's counterintuitive to do it that way. But I think when you have a history of doing it, you have this experience to fall back on. For people who don't have that experience, it's good to just take good notes, I would think,
Mm-hmm.
and try to make sure, you know, sit down, crunch the numbers after your weddings and events and things like that. You know, one thing I think too is, you know, do you get to a point, and I don't know if this has ever happened, so maybe it has. I mean, it happens to everybody, I guess. Like when you say your this proposal is X amount of dollars, and somebody says, "Oh, that's more than I wanted to spend." Because you're dealing with a wedding planner, do you get much pushback like that because you know what the real numbers are? Or what happens when that happens? Do you go back
Yeah.
and reduce, or how do you handle that?
Yeah, I recommend places that we could cut back. Well, maybe you don't need that entry arch over the door to the venue. Maybe we can do without that. You know, like I definitely know places that will be more impactful and places that we can really do without. Or, you know, if they really like that aisle installation look, but maybe they don't have the budget for it, maybe we can do it with mostly greenery and maybe there's a accent of florals within instead of full floral. So I definitely want to work with people. Like I understand budgets and I understand flowers are expensive and it's a really crazy industry that we're in. I mean, I can't imagine some of the budgets that we have are crazy. So I want to work with people. I want to give them something beautiful. And if it's a little over their budget, I want to, help them in ways that they could cut back, things they could edit, remove, definitely. But I do get a few emails every now and then that like, oh, I have it's from the bride saying they have a wedding and they want me to do the flowers. Or am I available that date? And I always immediately respond, congratulations. I would love to work with you if I'm available, of course. My floral minimum is this, because I don't want to go and talk with them if that's not their minimum. If that's not, I mean, and usually when I do have brides contact me, like 8 out of 10 times I'm over their budget. But it's good to just be candid and upfront and tell them what your minimum is. And if it works, great. And if not, you can refer them. And I do. I refer them to, like, there's 3 to 5 people in my area that I always say, like, try this person. They're great.
That's helpful. I mean, at least you're giving a solution, which I think is
Totally.
which is really helpful. So I don't want to ask the question what your minimum is, but I do want to ask as far as determining that, what point in your business life did you say, I've got to start setting minimums?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't mind sharing my minimum if
It's fine.
that.
I don't want to put you on the spot. If you want to share it, you can.
Yeah, yeah. Our minimum is 25,000 right now, but normally we do weddings that are between 40 and 50,000. And then in this year we've had ones that are over 100,000 for flowers. So it does vary, but we set a minimum because we really, okay. So I think the first like 3 years of business, I think we decided to come up with a minimum, and it was 2,500. And that was great for us. Like, we were doing weddings. I don't think we were charging enough at the time, but
You're
we
learning.
also lacked that experience. We lacked portfolio work. I think it was giving us great opportunities, giving the brides more than they paid for. And then I think we went up then our 4th year or something to $5,000 minimum. And then I think our 6th year, it was like $10,000 minimum. Like, it did grow pretty fast. I think you'll notice you need a minimum when you start to have too much work, too many weddings.
That's what I was wondering.
Yes. Like, it's more than you can handle. And then, every now and then, because of COVID, we actually went to take, like, I think we've taken like a couple smaller ones that are like on Fridays or something during COVID. And I think so, but we do have a minimum because we do a lot of destination weddings. And in the past, we sometimes did 2 or 3 weddings in one day because they were smaller and more manageable. We could, pop over to those different venues, do installations, set them up, go to the next, whatever the case may be there. But now, since we're traveling, we can't do that. Like, we need to ensure that we have just one per weekend, and so it has to reach a certain minimum. And if we are traveling, I mean, we have a lot that goes into traveling. Like, the expenses of traveling alone are usually at least $5,000 for us and our team.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. And that's what I was going to ask is like, is your flower budget, or is your wedding budget just for everything, or is it just for the flower part? Because the travel, I mean, obviously, if someone is using you for your talent and they know, hey, I'm not in Texas, obviously I've got to pay for that. So is that over and on top of that, or is that something separate?
Well, and I said normally it's about
Sure.
25,000, but of course, people, I think when I share my minimum, it usually goes above that.
Right.
It doesn't usually stay like super on that.
Sure.
But if it does, it might be local in the Dallas area, and we don't need like a ton of travel stuff. And a smaller team does it. So not as many people are traveling when it's, on a different budget. Not as many installations are involved. And so it just varies. But I mean, our minimum could include everything if they wanted to,
Be
have
that right.
20 go to flowers, 5 go to travel, whatever.
You're
Yeah.
good. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Well, at least it helps understand the flexibility because sometimes I think people want to be really rigid and say this is my minimum, and I kind of get that, especially depending on where you are in the country and maybe what your client base might be. But knowing that you're taking in different factors to be flexible with it, and obviously because of a lot of the planners or designers you work with, those numbers are over and above that. But I just get curious because I feel like a lot of times people struggle with pushing that minimum up there. Ideally, how many weddings do you want to do a year?
Oh my gosh, ideally, maybe 12, but I think we're doing maybe 20 or I haven't even counted. And with COVID, I mean, it's completely messed me up. Like I have no idea what month it is someday. I'm just like at my computer trying to email or trying to write my recipes. It is a crazy time right now, and people are still postponing. Or
Really?
yeah, I still have, just a couple of weeks ago I had a bride just go ahead and move it to next year. Yep. And then I had another one that delayed it a few months. So we're still dealing with postponements and the date changes.
Okay, I was hoping that was getting better, but I'm sure you're letting some people feel better knowing that even you are still dealing with that.
Yes, yes.
Because I feel like when the year started, like a lot of people didn't really know what to expect, obviously. And now that, here it is, we're more than two-thirds into the year. And, a lot of weddings, I feel like they finally just woke up and said, we're gonna do this. So like a lot of shorter deadlines or timelines, I think have been happening.
Totally.
And because I feel like, and I may be wrong, but I feel like you have been way busier the last few months than you would normally be in that given period of time. Is that true?
I think so. I'm like, what month is it? Yeah. Yeah, we have been busy. Okay, so our summer usually is not as busy, but yes, this summer we like only got like basically a week of vacation this summer with our kids. So it was pretty intense. We usually have like maybe a wedding in Europe. And so I take my whole family and we go to Europe and we spend like 3 weeks. So it has been pretty intense and lots of big weddings. So I need a big design team. We have lots of installations. So yeah, it's been a crazy summer. It's now September, almost October, and I have brides that are still booking me for November.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. And so you're trying to manage everything you've got on the books now and obviously take some of those in. I know everybody feels really desperate, and that's not the right thing to say. I know everybody feels this urgency after being pent up for a year and a half, not being able to do work to try to get all the work you can.
Right.
But at the same time, you don't want the quality of your work to suffer
Right.
either. How do
Right.
you balance that?
And you have to take care of yourself too. Like I
Mm.
I need rest. So I like in between jobs, I go to bed early. I'm sleep. Actually, even when I'm on jobs, I try to go to bed early. I give myself enough team members, enough designers so that we're not working till midnight. Like we'll end our day between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m., and we'll start working at like 8 a.m. I mean, it's a manageable amount of time. I think a lot of designers maybe are short staffed. A lot of florists are short staffed. So their team might be working like 6 a.m. to midnight or, crazy
Right.
hours. And we just can't do that to ourselves as business owners, as designers, as humans. We have to take care of ourselves. We have to rest. We have to be healthy. And I think once we're tired and run down, that's when we will start to really feel this and feel the fatigue. So
Mm.
I think resting is very important in between jobs. When you're on jobs, take care of yourself.
That's really smart. How do you go about doing that? I mean, that's a great topic in itself is
Yeah.
figuring out how many freelancers you need because you've got different skill sets or different levels of design. And of course, you've worked with a lot of the same people for a while, so you may know them and know how they work. But I mean, any recommendations?
Yes, I am like a master timeline maker. And so I create like a whole timeline for every wedding, every event we do. And
Hmm.
it's by the day and also down to the time. So I
Wow.
say, like, 9 a.m., we're going to make 40 compotes. And then, like, I'll say, okay, I think that that will take us 2 hours for four designers to make 10 compotes each, whatever the case may be. I have to make a timeline, and I kind of assign windows of time, and then I put a designer on that so that I know, okay, we can do this. This is manageable. I know that this person can make 10 compotes at this time, and then they can move on to make, the aisle installation. Like, that's totally manageable. Or I get there and I'm like, oh gosh, we don't have enough people. Like, this person can't make all 100 compotes,
Right.
like, so I'm like, I need to get some more designers. So making a timeline and really putting things out, and managing the time and kind of assigning the things is a great way to know if you have enough designers and if you have enough time in the day to make this happen.
What a great idea, because a lot of times it's so funny to me. You start to put it on paper and then you start adding it up and you're like, I am the world's worst at this. Like, I'll say, "Oh, I can do this, this, and this," and my wife comes in and says, it normally takes you this amount of time to do X, right?" I'm like, "Well, yeah," and it normally takes this amount of time to do Y. I'm like, "Right." So, and then it's like before you know it, I'm trying to do 5 hours worth of work in 2 hours, and I'm like, and you get it on paper, you see it.
Right. Yes.
What a
Yes.
great
And
idea.
and I create this timeline and I send it out to all the designers too. So they know what they're getting themselves into. They know what's to come for the week and what all they're going to be making. And then we're all like machines when the time comes. I mean, everyone knows what to do. I don't have to micromanage people, especially they've worked with me so long, that they know, oh, okay, I'm going to make these 50 cocktail arrangements in the morning, and then I'm going to make 10 compotes in the afternoon, and then I'm going to start greening up the aisle boxes that we're creating. Like, we have a system down and everyone knows what to do.
Wow, I so love this too, because also, personal time management can be an issue. And when your freelancers and designers know, okay, I need to get this done in 2 hours because I got another thing and right afterwards and another thing, you know what I mean? It's like it helps them like, okay, I need to put it into fourth gear or whatever I got to do to keep moving.
Right. Yeah.
Wow, that's really great. When you're working with freelancers, do you have any sort of like written agreements you do, or is it just
Yeah.
because you know them? Okay, so
Yeah.
how does that work?
We have a freelancer contract. Like, I had a lawyer draw up, a contract for independent contractors.
Okay,
Yeah.
and it just spells out just expectations.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow. Do you get any pushback for that, or I can imagine people really want to work for you, so you're not going to get that. But
No, and I actually haven't even had people sign it and refresh it which I probably should. Like, it's an older thing that I haven't had. Everyone has signed it in the past, but if I've had some new people work for me here and
I
there,
see.
they haven't really signed it. I mean, we don't really have any problems. Like, the
That's
important
good.
things are having transparency with your designers. So talk about expenses, talk about travel. It's really, there's travel expenses. That's what's involved. Talk about, just be clear with your payment and everything that goes into it, before. And since I've been working with these people for so long, we never have problems because they know what to expect. They know what the drill is. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And it makes it it probably makes it a more pleasant work environment because everyone knows what to expect. Everyone knows what's going on and you're organized. So that takes that stress of that last minute chaos,
Mhm.
that fear of that working till 1 o'clock in the morning and being back up at 4 or something crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's great. Well, I always like to ask that question. And of course, obviously those were great tips. A piece of advice that you would love to leave people with, or that maybe someone shared with you that was really important or influenced you.
I don't really, I can't think of anything off the top of my head except that you should just do what you love. I mean, that's what we're doing. I think we all have a passion for flowers or design. I think that's why we're here. So, just continue doing what you love. And if you're able to make a business out of it, amazing.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that. And I also the level of what you do um, is so inspiring for others because of the kinds of flowers you use, because of the design aesthetic that you produce, and some of the things I've seen over the years of what you do. I'm like, is there flowers that you just naturally want to gravitate towards, or do you? I don't know. It's like I don't know how to ask this question. I feel like you are always so current with the flowers you use and just they're so amazing and they're not everyday blooms. And not many people are successful in pulling together those kinds of palettes. And I didn't know if you had any insights into how you do that or how you go about that.
I think, farm grown flowers when you can get them are amazing. I gravitate, I love roses, like it's just such a classic. They're so big and beautiful and all roses are different and unique when they open too. Like even standard roses, they all open differently. I've been working a lot with David Austin roses lately. I just love their roses. So I kind of use roses as a base almost for all of my work. And then I use more textural or unique shaped florals kind of on top of
Sure.
that layer on top. So I think maybe that's what you're seeing, like the layers is what you're seeing also, but farm grown pieces too, like from Rose Story Farm, or when I go to Colorado and I'm able to work with such amazing farmers and textures, like showcasing those pieces because just the shape of the stem with those is gorgeous. And like with Rose Story Farm, just the little bit of foliage that's on the rose is so beautiful. The shape of the stem coming up, you want those things to be seen. So I think it's not always just about the flower and the bloom of the flower, but the shape that the stem creates and how the flower might trail off, trail out of the vase or trail off the edge.
Yeah, because for people who don't work with roses like that, a lot of them are used to these roses on these really straight stems, and they're so long and they're so vertical. They're not used to that flowing, that natural kind of whimsy dancing style.
Yes. Yeah.
One thing I was really kind of, since we have some time, I wanted to ask about budgeting. How do you? This is the way to ask it. Do you allot a certain percentage of the overall, like, do you know what you want to make and then you break things down from there, or do you have that dollar amount and then you just add on, like the travel part or the flower part? Like, I mean, is it all based on flower, or do you have design fees or things like that? Or
So I take every itemized piece of piece of the invoice that includes florals. I add all those up and then I divide by a certain amount. And then that is my amount that I can spend on wholesale florals. And then, anything vase wise, like hopefully I can use, other vases. If I have to buy new vases, that should be included or is separate depending on, sometimes I write my recipes and I put my order in for the wholesaler and I'm like right at budget. Sometimes I'm way over and I have to scale back. Sometimes I'm under. Um,
Hmm.
but it just depends on what the market is. And I don't go through and say like, okay, I have this much to spend on, garden roses. I have this much to spend on. No, I'll just bulk them all together, look at my total invoice from my wholesaler. And then it's like, whoa, the roses are $6 a stem for standard roses. I'll take all those off, whatever the case may be to get me on, which that's what we're dealing with a lot right now with COVID prices.
right.
I think things are a lot higher than I had anticipated for a wedding, maybe back when I gave them the estimate in 2019 or whatever the case may be. So now I don't want to come back to them and necessarily say, your flowers are going to be this much more, because I know that they've gone through a lot with rearranging their wedding, rescheduling. They've probably lost a lot of money between whoever vendors they are. So I don't want to do that to my COVID brides who have already existed. Going forward, I can price things higher, knowing, but I'm just going to make it work. I'm going to make subs for them. I'm going to order different florals and still stay on budget.
It's interesting. So going forward, are you basing future weddings on today's prices, or do you think they're going to come back down, or
I
have
think
you
they
heard?
will. They'll come back down. So I'm not going crazy with a lot of things, and there still are things that are affordable out there. So it's
Sure.
just those fan favorites that are crazy expensive right now. So I'm just not using those. Um, but I think it will come back down. But I'm still adding some more in as a buffer.
That's smart. That's really smart. Well, Alicia, thank you so much for this time. This has been so fun, and I've learned so much because I know that a lot of times, you've addressed a lot of issues that people deal with, and I appreciate that. Thank you for being on the Flower Podcast.
Thanks for inviting me, Scott. Thank you.